EarthSpark. Been a hot second since I've seen a promising show shit the bed this hard in the finish line. I'd say that's impressive, but I'm not gonna get into the habit of cheering for mediocrity. Transformers EarthSpark had a lot of promise in its first season, with a genuinely lovable cast and interesting ideas such as a post-war setting, and a redeemed Megatron fighting on the side of the good guys. Though the good in this case should be taken with a grain of salt. And while there were always cracks in the writing, Season 1 was overall enjoyable enough to keep you from scrutinizing them too much. It had a largely positive reception, and fans were curious to see what Season 2 would bring. So what happened? The entire writers' room quit and got replaced by people who didn't know what the fuck they were doing. That's what happened. Yeah, if there's anything EarthSpark is known for these days, it's how much the post-Season 1 writers messed up just about everything. You'd be hard-pressed to find any fans of Season 2 whose love for it isn't mostly born out of holding on to the few inklings of good it had. Like a desperate person scratching tiny bits of gold out of a turd. Season 3 was so bad even Season 2's most stubborn defenders jumped ship, and Season 4... Sorry, did I say Season 4? I meant the hastily cobbled together specials the writers were throwing at deceiving fanbase as a distraction while they hightailed it out of the building. So because I love torturing myself, I decided to try and do what the post-Season 1 writers' room pathetically failed and write good follow-up seasons for Transformers EarthSpark Season 1. So, fun little tidbit, this was originally going to be a rewrite of EarthSpark Season 1 and Seasons 2 and 3. But while writing the script I've realized that I honestly don't think Season 1 needs a complete overhaul. Unlike 2, 3, and 4, Season 1 actually tells a mostly coherent story from start to finish. The characterization is good, the ending feels conclusive, and most plot threads are resolved nicely. Season 1 isn't perfect, but it was still solid enough that I realized I didn't have enough material for an episode-by-episode rewrite. Most of my changes amounted to leaving the episodes as they were and just tweaking a bit here and there to bring out the themes more, or make the world EarthSpark takes place in feel a little less empty. So that's basically what this is going to be. A list of all the minor changes I'd make to Season 1 before I roll up my sleeves and jump right into the mess that came after. Never hurts to have a good foundation after all. That being said, let's start with... The Maltos are pretty okay as main characters go, but it never sat right with me how the show insisted on not letting them be anything but a family unit. The mental link through the cybersleeves at times feels more like codependency than a familial bond. An impression that isn't helped by the fact that none of the Maltos really have friends outside of their immediate family. Name one friend their age Robbie and Mo have who isn't their robot siblings. I dare you. So first things first, I'd let the Maltos keep a better relationship with people outside of their family. Throughout the season, we'd have them either mention or be away on trips with other friends, showing they do have a social life that isn't relegated to the Malto form. Robbie and Mo are casually hanging out with the kids from their respective classes. There's occasionally some comedic moments when they either struggle to keep their extended robot family a secret, or start acting up involuntarily due to their cybersleeves transmitting strong emotions from one or more of their siblings. Nightshade mentions staying in contact with Sam, maybe even decorating the bunker with a few NB flags or just pride stuff in general, now that they have a word for their identity thanks to Sam educating them on LGBT+ culture. They'll also occasionally mention Tarantulas, expressing concern for him and hoping that he managed to escape Ghost's clutches. Twitch is fine as she is, she's always been the most developed out of Team Terran, but just to not leave her out, Twitch will at times be away from home to accompany Wheeljack, either testing out some new invention of his, or just hanging out to strengthen her bond with and learn a bit more about her dad too. Hashtag would go all in on her filming aspirations, joining on a forum for amateur movie makers where she won't have to show her face to speak to people sharing her interests. She also dedicates more time to her social media presence, regularly updating her blog and occasionally helping the Autobots handle public relations via theirs. Jawbreaker, after gaining his alt mode, would go train with Grimlock regularly, learning more about Dinobot culture and Cybertronian history in general, as well as his own Dino half. Thrash's rebellious side would show more and more as the season goes on. Out of the Terrans, he's the one least interested in Cybertron, instead going all in on Earth culture. Wrestling in particular catches his interest, and we actually see him incorporate moves he saw in matches during fight scenes. His disdain towards Cybertron stuff would change somewhat after Warzone, due to him finally being able to vocalize why he's so reluctant to learn his people's history, and feeling less pressure to hear their stories as a result. Out of all the human Maltos, Dot was by far the most fleshed out in Season 1, so I'd leave her unchanged. Maybe add some more background details to allude to her past, such as a picture of all of Platoon Cyberstrike, maybe a variant with and without Megatron, serving as slight foreshadowing for Season 2. Alex, just like Dot, is mostly fine as he is. He gets enough focus for us to get a good grasp of his general personality and wants. The only thing I'd expand on is his job as a university professor. Maybe show him grading papers or being interrupted in the middle of a lecture on Cybertronian history now and again. The Cybertronians were mostly done justice, but I'd make a few tweaks to how the Decepticons were handled. First off, house rules would see Swindle genuinely growing fond of Fresh and Mo, maybe even show him conflicted on following through with his original plan. In the end, he does still turn on them, but when he has Fresh at his mercy, he actually hesitates. That's when Dot and Bumblebee come in and Swindle decides to make it a retreat, though it's implied that their appearances gave him an excuse to give up and not hurt the kids. The final scene of the episode would have Swindle drive by the construction site him, Mo, and Fresh were skating in, briefly stopping to observe it before moving on, all but confirming that his friendship with them might have started to mean more to him than he's willing to admit. Nova Storm and Skywarp remain mostly unchanged, aside from one thing. After being defeated in Age of Evolution Part 2, they actually give the heroes the location of Mandroid's lair. It's left ambiguous whether this is out of spite toward a man who has only ever abused them, an attempt to endear themselves to the heroes and maybe reduce their sentences, or a genuine desire to atone at least a little bit for what they've done. Ravage's stinger scene from the ending of Decoy would actually lead somewhere, with her being shown gathering information of the prison's layout over several episodes and carrying it back to Soundwave. This would then result in the attempted prison break we saw in What Dwells Within, where she's shown trying to make a run for it alongside Soundwave and sadly being recaptured with him when Starscream, Nova Storm, and Skywarp decide to ditch everybody like the selfish little weasels they are. Lastly, Tarantulas wouldn't just disappear after one episode with the show never telling us what actually happened to him. Instead, we'd actually see him in a ghost cell along with the other Decepticons. He would also be part of the charge on Mandroid's tower in The Last Hope, taking Soundwave's place as a Decepticon riding in on Hardtop, while Soundwave himself would, fly in, instead of using one of his friends as transport he didn't need. Lazy jerk. Just giving the Decepticons a bit more grayness overall, like Season 1 tried to do. They're certainly not heroes or good guys, but neither are they all monsters. They're trapped on a strange planet with no way home, where their only two choices are life on the run or being locked up and experimented on by humans indefinitely. Not a good set of circumstances to be in, and certainly not making them more inclined to try and change their behavior. Let's not beat around the bush here. EarthSpark's world at times feels dreadfully empty. We hardly see anyone or anything outside of Witwicky. Both Decepticons and Autobots consist of small groups of at most 5 or 6. The show actually had a good out for that, with both factions spread across the globe after the war, but that doesn't explain why Ghost, an organization that is global in the name, only has one base in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. Or why, even when everyone is called to help, the Cybertronians barely amass enough people to fill a town, let alone enough to believe they could populate an entire planet of their own. You can count the models for human civilians on one hand. Same for the Ghost agents. The world feels extremely small, which it shouldn't if what happens in a plot affects the entire planet. To change that up a bit, let's make it that while Ghost's headquarters are in Witwicky, they actually have bases all across the world. Each of these bases also have their own groups of Autobots assigned to them. We see them now and again when Optimus, Megatron, Croft, and Schloeder discuss missions or recent developments. This also gives us an excuse to implement some cool cameos for more Autobot and Decepticon characters without adding bloat to the main cast. Going off on that, we'd actually see the world-spanning consequences the Season 1 finale pretended it had. Like Schloeder not wanting to contact other Ghost bases due to being uncertain just how many agents have either been replaced with Goids or are on Croft's side. When Ghost's control badges are activated by Mandroid, we get a montage of Autobots worldwide suddenly being taken over and turning against the Ghost agents who are with them, destroying their base. The agents try to get the situation under control, but are almost effortlessly overpowered and pushed back. This leads into a brief moment of triumph when Starscream and his squad show up to cover the Maltos charge at Mandroid's tower, As like with the Autobots, we get a montage of Decepticons fighting against the Autobots and keeping them from taking full control of the Ghost bases. Maybe pay homage to rivalries between the faction characters in previous continuities. When Mandroid's tower shuts down all energon-based life forms on the planet, we see that as well. One Cybertronian after another collapsing as the humans look on in confusion and horror. We also see the effects of the Maltos healing signal, slowly reawakening the collapsed Cybertronians. And just as a sign that the time of old grudges truly is over, there'd also be some scenes of Autobots helping newly revived Decepticons back to their feet and vice versa, even exchanging the occasional smile here and there. Lastly, strike the Sharticons. Just completely. They really didn't add anything, and we never see them again in the following seasons anyway. Their role as Mandroid's lackeys is taken up by the brainwashed Autobots and Megatron. So, with all that groundwork out of the way, let's finally dive in. This is my rewrite of Transformers EarthSpark Season 2. We open with narration by the Maltos siblings introducing themselves to the viewer. They give a brief recap of the events of Season 1 and bring us up to speed about what has happened since then. It has been an entire year after all. A lot can change in that time. After the deaths of Mandroid and Croft, the government was quick to try and make amends with all Cybertronians, not just Autobots. Due to their heroic efforts in helping to defeat Mandroid, the Decepticons received a pardon and are now allowed to roam free on Earth within reason. Ghost was officially dismantled, with Agent Schloeder getting fired from his job. The only reason he wasn't put in jail was because of Robbie, Mose, and Bumblebee vouching for him, emphasizing the role he played in both Croft's and Mandroid's defeat, and that he truly had no idea of his older sister's genocidal plans or that she was working with Mandroid. Dot has become the new official liaison between the Cybertronians and the American government, a job she only agreed to under the condition that she'd be allowed to operate from Witwicky. The old Ghost base now serves as a newly formed Cybertronian Human Alliance's headquarters. They're still sorting through Ghost's old stuff, with the lion's share of the task being given to Shockwave, Tarantulas, Wheeljack, and Nightshade. Brilliant scientists all four of them are, they were eager to work with equipment as advanced as Ghost's. It's not all good news, however. The Ember Stone is still broken, with its shards having been scattered all over the world. Both Autobots and Decepticons are doing their best to recover the shards, but with the often unpredictable nature of the Emberstone's energy, which has gotten even more wild since it was broken, this proves to be a very difficult task. Even with all hands on deck, and the newly built ground bridges based on Ghost's failed space bridge project expanding their range. After the establishing montage, we cut to Robbie and Mo training in the Hollow Room in the CHA's base. They're going through the Rescue Civilian program that we've first seen in Security Protocol. After a year of training with the Cybersleeves and gaining a better understanding of how they function, they now have way better fine control over their abilities, summoning hard light weapons and matching suits at will. They pass the training simulation with flying colors, with Bumblebee congratulating them as they leave the danger room. Robbie makes a snide remark that if Bumblebee really wants to seem impressive, maybe he should let them take part in a mission. Bumblebee laughs and says that if it were up to him, he'd have been them cleared weeks ago. But Dot would probably have his head if she found out he was sending them out there. Robbie isn't satisfied with this, grumbling that she doesn't seem to have the same problem with their Terran siblings going out into the field. An arriving Dot cuts into the conversation, pointing out that she doesn't like it for them either, but her Terran babies are a lot more sturdy than her human ones. Robbie argues again that him and Mo literally saved the world a year ago. Don't they deserve a little bit more trust? Bumblebee and Mo watch this back and forth with resigned expressions, making it clear that this isn't the first time mother and son have had this argument. Robbie eventually asks Mo to back him up, but much to her surprise and dismay, Mo actually hesitates, avoiding his eyes. Dot takes this opportunity to assure Robbie that she does trust him and Mo, but, Quintus Prime's chosen or not, they are still children, and human childhood and growth is just different from Cybertronians and Terrans. She then tells Robbie not to be in such a hurry to join the fighting. With a gesture that clearly points to her prosthesis, she says, "Trust me, you stand to lose more than you gain. Things like war aren't games." Robbie clearly wants to argue some more, but there's really nothing he can say to that. So he begrudgingly drops it. Dot smiles and gives him a peck on the forehead. Her phone rings and Dot takes it out of her pocket, reacting with annoyance as she realizes it's yet another call from the American government. They might have put her in charge of the CHA, but they're still anxious about, well, everything, especially with the current Ember Shard situation. She picks up and walks away towards her new office, leaving the kids and Bumblebee by themselves. Robbie grumbles that he's going to get himself something to drink and also wanders off. Bumblebee asks Mo if she's okay. She's not usually shy about expressing herself. And given how enthusiastic she was back there in the training simulation, he'd thought she'd be as eager to jump into the fray as Robbie is. Mo says that the simulations are fun, but it's because they're precisely that, simulations. She knows that in there nothing bad can actually happen. Most times at least. But going out into the field again, especially after everything that happened last year, she's just not so sure anymore. She wants to use her powers to help and protect others, but Bumblebee shows understanding towards her, admitting that he often felt the same. Mo is surprised by this, given how proud Bumblebee is of his career as a scout. And Bumblebee admits, with a rather somber expression, that he tries to focus on all the good he's done during his time serving, so all the bad he's seen and has been part of won't pull him under. He tells Mo that her mother is right. Her and Robbie should enjoy their youth while they can. More quietly, he adds that he himself only realized that once it was way too late. We cut to the entrance hall of the CHA. The Terran, Sans Nightshade, along with Optimus, have returned from a mission successfully recovering an Ember Shard. Hashtag is excitedly going through all the snapshots she made of the place they founded, a mountainous region with beautiful flora and fauna, squealing that her followers will love it. Twitch is already eager to go back out, saying she bets they can find more shards than Alita's and Starscream's group. Thresh and Jawbreaker aren't as eager, with Thresh especially complaining that just getting this shard took a lot out of them, and adding that driving up a mountain when your tires are meant for roads isn't exactly fun. Jawbreaker wants to see if Grimlock's quest to recruit more Dinobots for the search has been successful. After all, the more bots they can get to join, the sooner they'll find all the shards. Twitch teasingly says he's just eager to meet more Dinobots, which Jawbreaker doesn't deny. As much as he loves his family, he's still the only one with a Dino alt mode. There's things about his body that really only Grimlock has been able to explain to and teach him. Nightshade, despite also having a non-vehicle alt mode, is still different and also far too busy with science stuff nowadays to help. Dot and Robbie enter the room to greet the returning team, followed closely by Bumblebee and Mo. Twitch immediately zeroes in on Robbie, gushing about how fun and exciting the mission was, completely unaware that she's pouring salt into the wound. Optimus, Dot, and Bumblebee leave for a debriefing and to put the retrieved Ember Shard into the secure vault that holds all the pieces they were already able to recover, while the kids stay behind to talk and hang out. The Terrans and the Malto kids amble down the base's hallways, with Thresh remarking that it's hard to believe this place was strictly off limits to them and crawling with ghost agents a year ago. Twitch confidently says that that's just what Team Terran does. They make everything better. Though Hashtag points out that it's thanks to everyone's support that they managed to repurpose the base so quickly. Jawbreaker finally notices that Robbie seems a bit down and asks him if everything's alright. Robbie tries to play it off, but now that Jawbreaker's drawn their attention to it, Twitch, Thresh, and Hashtag can feel Robbie's frustration over the bond as well, and encourage him to tell them what's bothering him. Robbie finally relents and admits that he's annoyed at being treated like a baby by his mother, while Twitch and the other Terrans are trusted with important missions like the restoration of the Emberstone. If him and Mo were just given a chance to prove themselves again, maybe Dot would finally have some faith in them. Mo argues that she doesn't think their mom has no faith in them, but that she's just worried. And with what Mandroid's done to them a year ago, it's not unreasonable for her to want them out of harm's way. Robbie gets annoyed at this, asking why Mo is always taking Dot's side, with Mo defending herself and shooting back that Robbie's the one who can't seem to see anyone's side but his own. Twitch tries to break up the argument, asserting that Team Terran shouldn't fight among themselves like this. In order to cheer Robbie and Mo up, she proposes paying a visit to Nightshade in a lab, to which the humans agree, though it's obvious there's still tension. We cut to the lab where Nightshade, Wheeljack, Shockwave, and Tarantulas are assembled around a strange-looking apparatus. Shockwave is typing away at a console before turning to Tarantulas and telling him to insert the object. Tarantulas carefully approaches the apparatus, holding what is revealed to be a containment unit with a small red Emberstone shard within it. Wheeljack grouses why he couldn't have been the one to take care of the final step, to which Nightshade diplomatically replies that Wheeljack might be brilliant and they do respect him as a fellow scientist, but anything he handles has a tendency to, well... To which Shockwave, much less diplomatically, adds, explode. Nightshade gives a resigned sigh and agrees, yes, that. As Wheeljack continues to grumble quietly, Tarantulas tries to slowly and carefully put the shard, which is already sparking, into the machine. Just as he's itching closer to insert it, the door to the lab abruptly opens and Twitch loudly greets both Nightshade and her dad too, causing Tarantulas to flinch and almost drop both the shard and the containment unit. Twitch sheepishly apologizes and Robbie asks what exactly the scientists are doing with the shards. Nightshade greets their family and explains that they were investigating the strange and erratic energy the shard is emitting in an attempt to understand the Emberstone's current condition a little better. Shockwave adds that, though unstable, the energy output itself is remarkable, as his optic focuses on the screen showing the readings. The scene switches to Dot's new office, formerly Croft's, where she, Optimus, Bumblebee, and Megatron, the last via video call, discuss the recent developments in the Ember Shard hunt. Despite everyone's best efforts, they barely have a fourth of the shards back. And it doesn't help that, after the Mandroid brainwashing incident last year, many humans have grown more distrustful of Cybertronians. Especially Decepticons are often victims to hostilities. Megatron also mentions that his former faction isn't all that thrilled to work with him, seeing as he contributed to their imprisonment and the torture they underwent while in Ghost captivity. Due to Megatron being their former leader, they take it especially personal that he would have allowed such a thing to happen to them. Optimus tries to be optimistic about it, assuring everyone that the situation will calm down over time. Now that the hostilities between factions are officially over, they can work on the relation to Earth's natives next, and with neither Croft nor Mandroid sabotaging the efforts from both sides, he's positive it'll go a lot better this time around. He also adds that now that the Terrans no longer need to be kept secret from Ghost, maybe they could help. Be the bridge between humans and Cybertronians, seeing as, like the humans, they are native to Earth. Dot shuts that down pretty quickly though. She's not about to let her kids be dragged into the spotlight and hounded by the media. Bumblebee intervenes, asking if they shouldn't ask the Terrans what they think about it rather than make decisions for them. Megatron agrees, much to everybody's and especially Bumblebee's surprise. Megatron tells Dot that he understands feeling protective of the young ones, but he's seen them excel on their own. And shouldn't they be allowed to decide themselves how they want their reveal to the world to go? Dot seems torn, but in that moment the screen signals an emergency transmission coming in. Dot, perhaps a bit grateful for the distraction, accepts the call, saying they'll continue the conversation later. The call turns out to be from Breakdown, who is currently on a solo scouting. He has good news and bad news for them. The good news is, he's found a shard. Bumblebee asks what the bad news are, and Breakdown responds, "The bad news is, it's running away." We cut to Breakdown to see him racing down a highway in vehicle form, trying to avoid other cars while not far ahead of him an out-of-control tow truck emitting red sparks zigzags across the road. While Breakdown is faster than the vehicle he's chasing, he can't risk going all out without endangering the humans around him, and if he stops to redirect traffic, he might lose the shard. He needs backup, and he needs it now. Bumblebee makes a teasing comment about Breakdown being a softie, seeing as the old him would have just gone for the shard without giving a damn about hurting the humans, and Breakdown humorously answers that Bumblebee's fondness for fleshies must have rubbed off on him. All jokes aside, they should send someone. Optimus isn't fast enough for this kind of mission, Megatron is too far away, and Bumblebee wouldn't be able to do it alone. So, at present, Bumblebee and Team Terran are the only ones readily available. Breakdown cuts in that he doesn't care who they send, but they better send someone fast. We go back to the Terrans still in the laboratory, with Twitch being directly contacted by Bumblebee to inform them of the situation, unaware that Robbie and Mo are also present. When Twitch tells the other Terrans about the mission, Robbie is excited and immediately requests they take him and Mo along. No one is especially enthused at the idea, but Robbie argues that with his and Mo's special connection to the Emberstone, and as Quint is chosen, they might be able to help in a way that neither the Cybertronians nor the Terrans can. And if they manage to pull it off, Dot will finally see that him and Mo are ready to be sent out into the field. Twitch is hesitant at first, but then admits she missed having the whole family unit together on adventures, with the rest of the Terrans reluctantly agreeing as well. Fresh and Mo are the only ones still putting up somewhat of a fight, but when Mo sees that Robbie won't be talked out of what he views as the chance to prove himself, she agrees to tag along, if only to have his back. Nightshade asks Tarantulas whether they can go, and Tarantulas confirms they'll be fine in the lab without them for a little while. With all of that settled, the Terrans and their human siblings roll out. We cut to the highway, where Breakdown is still chasing the shard-controlled tow truck, with the red energy sparks coming from it getting more wild by the minute. The human driver in the truck's cabin is terrified, frantically trying to get his truck to obey him by wrenching the wheel around and calling for someone to help him. Breakdown barely manages to swerve aside when the thing throws out a lightning bolt, calling back that he's trying to. The sparks start building up around the vehicle again, prompting Breakdown to comment, "Oh, that can't be good." It is indeed not good, as the energy wave the truck emits this time is so strong it knocks Breakdown aside and off the highway. He's barely able to transform into robot mode and grab onto the street from the side, but when he pulls himself back up, the truck is nowhere to be seen. Breakdown, now visibly frustrated, calls Team Terran over the comm to tell them that he lost their mark. We cut to Twitch as she responds that it's alright, she can guess where it is. She's currently in drone form carrying Robbie, with them both looking down at the highway system where the sparking truck is leaving a trail of disorganized vehicles, desperately trying to avoid being ran through by it. Nightshade, who is flying right beside them, comments that with the amount of energy it's throwing out, this shard must be on the bigger side, to which Robbie responds that this makes it all the more important for them to retrieve it, adding a slightly inappropriate "Mom's gonna be so impressed." Using their different skills and powers, the Terrans manage to clear the road and redirect traffic, with Hashtag especially coming in clutch due to her technopathy letting her hack into the nearby car's radios and give out a warning. Once the coast is clear, Nightshade flies up to the truck's driver's cabin, calling out to the scared human inside it to jump on their back. The guy is understandably skeptical about this plan, until Nightshade points out that he's barreling right towards a dead end. They manage to catch the man in their claws as he jumps out and fly off to deposit him a bit further away. Meanwhile, the truck soars over the edge of the bridge and crashes into the ground below, right into a large puddle of water. Just as the Terrans and Maltos catch up to it, some sort of reaction triggers. A bolt of red lightning falls from the sky, right into the truck's engine, which is where the shard is situated and which is also partially underwater. There's a bright light and a loud crackle. Then, all of a sudden, a hook bursts right through the truck from underneath, cutting it neatly in half, and a massive silhouette surrounded by red lightning emerges. It's a bot, way taller than even Hashtag, and somewhat resembling the tow truck he was under a second ago. Through the grill in his chest plate, we can vaguely make out the Emberstone shard, still sparking. Bumblebee remarks that this is new, while Hashtag notes that the new bot appears to be a Terran, but he seems different somehow. The group doesn't get much time to ponder this, however, as the newly created Terran suddenly aims his triple-barreled blaster at them and starts shooting. The group barely manages to avoid getting hit, but is forced to take cover as their attacker is relentless, firing salvo after salvo at them. Jawbreaker asks just what this new guy's beef with them is, but Mo can't answer that, as she for some reason can't feel the strange Terran with their mental link, a revelation that freaks everybody out. Bumblebee snaps out of it first, stating that, connected or not, they better stop the new Terran before it causes even more destruction. The group fans out, trying to take their opponent out for teamwork. Twitch and Nightshade attempt to calm him down by telling him that they're all Terrans and therefore family, but the new Terran doesn't seem receptive to that. The team starts to make some headway, but then Robbie gets overzealous and goes in for a knockout at a bad time, leading to Hashtag getting knocked out protecting him from the new Terran's retaliation, horrifying him. This throws the rest of the team off their game so much that their opponent gets the upper hand again. When Bumblebee tries to overwhelm him, the Terran easily manhandles him and rams him into the ground. Just as he's about to knock Bee out, the sound of an obnoxiously loud honk is heard, and who would appear and ram into Bee's attacker but Breakdown in vehicle mode. Breakdown transforms into robot mode, joking that it looks like he came just in time to save Bee's bumper again, while offering his friend a hand. Bee takes it with a fond half smile, wondering if Breakdown's ever gonna let him lift that down. This cute moment is interrupted by the new Terran getting back up again, even more pissed than before. Breakdown asks what the new kid's deal is, and Bumblebee replies that they aren't sure, but it looks like he's some sort of new Terran, significantly more violent than the rest. Breakdown smirks and, cracking his knuckles, says if the kid wants to fight, he can provide that. Bee tries to warn him that the new Terran is far more dangerous than the Maltos, but said Terran then charges at them again, and Breakdown pushes Bee out of the way, while simultaneously dodging the new Terran's punch. Breakdown squares up to the new kid, who immediately attempts to crush him. But while the Terran is taller and burlier, Breakdown is faster and far more experienced, leading to him almost literally running laps around him. While parrying and dodging the Terran's attack, Breakdown occasionally compliments him on his ferocity and strength. Bumblebee and the Malto Terrans watch the fight with mixed feelings. Thrash asks if they should help, but Bee assures him that Breakdown has this, sheepishly admitting that between the two, Breakdown's always been the better fighter. After several more blows, the new Terran is visibly tired out, not having managed to land a single hit on Breakdown, who is still treating this more like a fun game than a fight to the death. When a Terran goes in for one last Hail Mary, Breakdown simply uses the bigger bot's momentum to throw him over his hip, then aims his blaster at him as he's lying on his back, grinning and proclaiming his victory. The Terrans are alarmed for a second, but then Breakdown puts his weapon away and offers the Terran a hand, similar to how he offered it to B earlier, congratulating him on a good showing and asking his name. The Terran hesitates for a moment, then begrudgingly accepts the help. Once he's back on his feet, he tells Breakdown that his name is Aftermath. This once again weirds out Robbie and Mo, as neither of them could feel his name like they did with the Terrans who came before him. Breakdown makes a quip about how just asking people for their name usually goes a long way. He then asks Aftermath to accompany them to the CHA base, noting that he must be parched after their bout, and when Aftermath seems only half convinced, Breakdown seals the deal by offering him a rematch once he's refueled. Cut to the CHA base, where Dot is less than happy that Mo and Robbie snuck out to join a mission and that the Terrans, along with Bumblebee, just let them. Robbie takes the blame for this, admitting that he was the one who pushed for him and his sister to be taken along. He feels especially crummy about this, given that neither him nor Mo were of any help at all with Aftermath, and his meddling got his sister #hurt. Optimus inquires about a new Terran, expressing worry over the fact that his creation had nothing to do with Quintus. Nightshade theorizes that with the artifact being broken, its usual rules might be out of whack as well, and its power corrupted, explaining why Aftermath lacks the mental link of the previous generation of Terrans. Robbie snarks that Aftermath is more like a Chaos Terran than a Terran. Dot asks exactly where Aftermath is right now, and Bumblebee tells her that after getting him some of the cave water they have stored in the base, Breakdown took him to Tarantulas, Shockwave, and Wheeljack to examine the shard within him. Dot worries about leaving Breakdown alone with Aftermath, given how prone to violence Aftermath has been, but Bumblebee expresses faith in his friend, pointing out that Breakdown's been handling Aftermath far better than him and the Maltos have. This upsets Twitch, who is still in disbelief that there's a new Terran that she can neither feel over the bond nor has been able to convince to join their family. Jawbreaker then points out that Aftermath's creation wasn't exactly pleasant, and that it must have been confusing and frightening to not only be brought into the world this sudden, but also to not have a calming presence in your mind telling you that everything's going to be okay, as was the case with him, and Nightshade. That's probably why Aftermath's behavior is so erratic and violent, and why he was so unresponsive to Twitch's claim they were his family. He couldn't feel her sincerity like the triplets back then, so he most likely lashed out at the older Terrans due to believing they're the ones responsible for what happened to him, which isn't exactly wrong. Twitch kinda gets what Jawbreaker's saying, but is still upset that Breakdown was the one who got Aftermath to calm down and listen in the end, and not Team Terran. Dot meanwhile confronts Robbie again, reprimanding him for being so reckless and putting both himself and Mo in danger. Robbie breaks and again vents his frustrations about Dot seemingly not believing in him and Mo and trying to keep them out of everything, when they have just as much of a right to protect Earth as the Terrans. Just like she did back then. Dot is taken aback by this outburst. She knew Robbie was unsatisfied with her ban on missions, but she didn't think it ran that deep or was that personal to him. There's a kind of awkward silence in the room as no one is quite sure how to handle this family squabble. Just then, they get another call from one of the shard hunting teams, this time from Starscream, who in his usual boastful manner informs everyone that him, Skywarp, Novastorm, and Soundwave were successful in retrieving yet another shard. Dot, though slightly exasperated by Starscream's need to preen, thanks him for his hard work and advises him to bring the shard to the vault as soon as possible. Only for Shockwave to cut in from the lab, requesting the shard be brought to him, Tarantulas, and Wheeljack right away. They're done with examining Aftermath, and their examination has confirmed that it's impossible to remove the shard, as it now essentially serves as the Chaos Terran's spark. So messing with it or taking it away would, kill him. For further research, a still free Ember Shard would be needed. Dot and Starscream agree, and Dot is about to end the call, only for Twitch to jump in and ask to speak to Aftermath. Shockwave is basically already focused on his work and absent-mindedly tells her that the new hybrid already left with Breakdown for the training room. Twitch is annoyed at this, asking why Shockwave wouldn't tell them right away, and Shockwave, to whom the conversation is already starting to get grating, bites back that it's news to him that either him or Aftermath should be reporting their every move to her. Before Twitch can retaliate, Shockwave ends the call, causing Twitch to grumble about how she really can't stand that guy. We cut to the CHA's entrance, where Starscream's team has just arrived, with Starscream proudly carrying the containment unit with the shard inside. He boasts that he knew they'd find it under his leadership, with Skywarp dryly remarking that it was largely thanks to Soundwave and his echolocation that they were able to even pinpoint where it was. Starscream looks annoyed for a second, but then, showing how much he's grown, actually gets over himself and sincerely thanks Soundwave for his hard work, with Soundwave merely acknowledging it for a silent nod. Nova Storm complains that she's starving, announces that she's going to loot the Energon stash, and blasts off. Skywarp resigns to go after her sister and make sure she doesn't consume all of the reserves before she's had her fill, and Soundwave takes long because he wants to get some snacks for Ravage. Starscream says he'll join them after delivering the shard to the scientists, then walks off to do just that. As he turns a corner, he almost runs into Megatron. The air is immediately tense, as former leader and ex-second-in-command both struggle what to say. Megatron somewhat awkwardly takes note of the Ember Shard and takes this to mean that Starscream's mission was successful, with Starscream sarcastically congratulating him for deducing that all on his own. After another moment of awkward silence, Megatron attempts to address the elephant in the room, namely his past treatment of Starscream and how Starscream still doesn't seem entirely comfortable working with him. Starscream visibly freezes when Megatron takes a step closer to him, and Megatron takes the hint and stays where he is. However, he then ruins it by stating he's aware they've both made mistakes when they were still on the same side, and that he can understand if Starscream should feel like he's been done wrong. Starscream is obviously angry at this complete non-apology and basically tells Megatron to go fuck himself, before storming right past him, while Megatron stays behind, genuinely confused and a tad frustrated at Starscream's reaction. At the training room, Breakdown and Aftermath are engaged in the rematch Breakdown promised, though Aftermath doesn't have any more luck with taking him down. Breakdown gives him a few pointers while they fight, which actually leads to Aftermath almost landing a punch, before Breakdown turns it against him and once again sends him flying. Aftermath laughs it off as he gets back up, saying that for an old man, Breakdown has some cool moves. Breakdown jokingly tells Aftermath to watch himself, asserting that he's barely 5,000 stellar cycles old. The door opens and the Terrans and Maltos enter the room, with Twitch enthusiastically calling out to Aftermath. Aftermath doesn't seem nearly as happy to see her or the others, returning her greeting more out of obligation. Twitch is oblivious to this and proceeds to invade Aftermath's personal space by excitedly fluttering around him and yapping about how he'll love it on the Maltos farm, and not to worry that he doesn't have a connection to them, they'll figure it out. Aftermath is irritated at Twitch getting all up in his grill, but he does inquire about what she means by connection. Twitch explains the mental link all Terrans and the Malto kids have and how it allows them to always feel what the other is feeling. She asks if sharing a mind like she described doesn't sound wonderful, and Aftermath, after looking at both her and the other Maltos and their way too wide smiles with barely veiled disgust, replies with a very firm no. Surprisingly, it's Breakdown who tells Aftermath to not knock forming such a deep bond with others until he's tried it, with the way he talks about it suggesting that he himself has experience with this sort of thing. Ooh, foreshadowing! Though he does add that it's more than possible to vibe with others even without being brain connected all the time. Before this discussion can continue, everyone receives a call from the laboratory. An unusually excited Tarantulas asks everyone to assemble in the laboratory immediately, as him and the other two scientists have made a great discovery. Everyone is confused on what it could be, except for Nightshade, who seems to have an idea and grows just as excited. We cut to the laboratory where all Autobots, Terrans, and Decepticons have assembled, with Tarantulas, Shockwave, and Wheeljack at the center. It is then that Shockwave reveals that while examining the Emberstone shards, him, Tarantulas, and Wheeljack have discovered that the energy they emit, while chaotic, is extremely potent. Tarantulas briefly interrupts to add that Nightshade's expertise was of great help as well, and Shockwave, with a tone that suggests he'd roll his eyes if he had any, concedes that yes, the hybrid's contributions were helpful. He then continues to explain that for the past weeks, the Quartet has been testing the shard's potential as an energy source on different devices, with varying results as what shards they had available were simply too small for this sort of experiment, though the devices they used were receptive to their energy. Now, with the bigger shards Starscream's team delivered to them, they've been able to conduct a proper test, and the results were beyond what they could have predicted. Using some graphs and diagrams, Tarantulas shows their captive audience that the energy output was enormous, with the machine they tested reaching almost 200% capacity. Wheeljack then sheepishly adds that there was an unfortunate accident after that, lifting up the device they were using, which is now little more than a weakly sparking, completely burned out husk. Shockwave takes over again, recalling how, when he was still working with Croft, he helped her construct the space bridge. Their main problem was finding an energy source to stabilize and reliably power it, with Mandroid briefly solving that conundrum by using both the Ember Stone and the Cyber Sleeves. The Melter Kids are visibly uncomfortable at being reminded of Mandroid's nearly successful massacre, which Shockwave either doesn't notice or doesn't care about. He carries on, saying that ever since the end of the war, they've been unable to return to or even just contact Cybertron, as every ship that could make the journey remained on their side of the bridge before Optimus destroyed it. At that part, Shockwave throws a pointed look at the Autobot leader who, despite a brief expression of guilt, returns it evenly, silently communicating that while he wishes things had been different, he stands by his decision. Sensing they're about to go off topic and play the blame game, Tarantulas and Wheeljack take over again, finishing Shockwave's point by stating that while they'll need to run some more tests, it's more than possible that the Ember Shard could serve as an energy source for a space bridge, a way back to Cybertron. Everyone is stunned by this revelation. Some of the Cybertronians, both Autobots and Decepticons, slowly breaking out into hopeful smiles at the thought that maybe, after all this time, they'll be able to go back home. Optimus and Megatron especially seem overwhelmed by this, though with Megatron in particular, it's a mix of joy at possibly seeing his planet again, and fear of what it might mean for him to return after all he's done. Mo, oblivious to this, happily congratulates the Cybertronians on the new discovery, while Jawbreaker expresses interest in seeing Cybertron, after all the stories he's heard of it from Grimlock. But then we see Optimus' eyes go back to the completely destroyed device. He asks if there's any way to suppress the unpredictable energy surges of the shards, which instantly puts a damper on everybody's mood when Wheeljack admits that presently, no, there isn't. Optimus questions if siphoning energy from the shards in the quantity Shockwave is suggesting wouldn't potentially bring harm to the planet. After all, over the course of a previous year, they've seen the destruction the shards can cause, even when relatively small and contained. He then, with a heavy heart, says that he can't, in good conscience, give the okay for the space bridge experiment if there's even a small chance that it would cost the humans even more than the Transformers war already has. This has a very mixed reception with the present Cybertronians, with all of them looking conflicted, sad, and disappointed, especially the Decepticons. When Wheeljack is about to say he understands, Shockwave cuts him off, snapping that Optimus can't possibly be serious. Yes, there's risk in the experiment, but there's risk in everything worthwhile. To which Optimus repeats that he will not sacrifice Earth as a price to return to Cybertron. Starscream, who has been quietly seething in the background ever since Optimus shut down the idea the first time, finally snaps. He tears into Optimus, saying, "What a surprise! Optimus values the future of humans more than the future of his own people." The Autobots take offense at this, with Alita shooting back that Optimus is trying to protect everyone. Starscream isn't having it though, pointing out all the ways Optimus has screwed them all over since the end of the war. Destroying both the original space bridge and the EarthSpark, allowing Ghost to hunt down and imprison hundreds of Decepticons, turning a blind eye to their shady practices, all so he could suck up to and protect his precious, precious humans. And now, when after years of toiling on this planet that has never welcomed them and has never truly been home, there's finally a ray of hope, Optimus would take that away too, once again putting humanity above his own people. Optimus tries to defend himself, but it's clear that Starscream has struck a nerve, especially with the Ghost thing. Megatron finally weighs in, stepping in front of Optimus and warning Starscream to stand down. Starscream, despite a brief look of fear, does not, in fact, stand down. Instead, he gets in Megatron's face, smiling bitterly as he says, "Or what? You'll make me? Go ahead. Show everyone how little you've truly changed, mighty Megatron." Megatron is taken aback by this, his expression visibly shaken after a year Starscream used an old epithet representing the past he's so desperately trying to make up for. His eyes even briefly go to the Terrans and kids, who have been watching the situation get worse and worse with growing anxiety. Seizing the opportunity, Starscream addresses the other Decepticons in the room, asking if they're really going to let the Autobot who left them at the mercy of humans like Croft, and the traitor who turned his back on them and let it happen, decide their future for them, like they've done in the last days of the war. Or are they going to take fate into their own hands? Most of the Decepticons loudly agree, though some, like Breakdown and Tarantulas, aren't quite as enthusiastic. Hashtag's voice breaks through the shouting, begging Starscream to stop and reconsider, Starscream actually looks conflicted for a moment, but then his expression hardens. He tells Hashtag he's sorry, but this planet has taken too much from him already. He then commands the present Decepticons to seize the Emberstone shard. Optimus in turn commands the Autobots to stop the Decepticons, and an all-out brawl starts. The Autobots and Terrans fight to keep the shard away from the cons, while Dot tries to get Mo and Robbie to safety. Robbie at one point saves them through quick thinking when he activates his shield to protect them from a stray blaster shot that Dot completely missed, which she takes note of. The fight devolves into a game of keep away until Twitch manages to get a hold of the containment unit. But as she tries to flee the room, the shard's corrupted energy surges again, which due to her close proximity she's unable to avoid. She drops the container to the floor, where it rolls a few feet and then comes to a stop when it collides with Aftermath's leg, who has mostly been beating on any Autobot getting too close to him while not really making any attempt to get his hands on the thing everyone's fighting over. He came out here to attack, and he's having a good time. When he notices the shard, Aftermath picks it up with a curious expression. Both Breakdown and Twitch become aware of who has the shard at the same time. Breakdown praises him and calls for Aftermath to throw it over, while Twitch desperately tries to convince Aftermath to give her the shard, pleading to him that they're family. Aftermath looks between the two of them, then coldly tells Twitch that she's no family of his, and gives the shard to Breakdown. With their prize secured, the Decepticons immediately flee the base, using the ground bridge to do so as the Autobots and Terrans try and fail to stop them. With the base now a lot more empty, everybody tries to gather their bearings. Wheeljack attempts to determine where the Decepticons ended up, but just as he gets to the keyboard, it goes up in smoke and sparks. It appears Shockwave, ever the cynic and paranoid, rigged the console to wipe its own data at a certain command from him, meaning there's no way to tell where the Decepticons have gone. Dot calls everyone to attention, telling Optimus to inform the Autobots around the globe that they need to keep the shards away from the Decepticons. Fresh, under his breath, makes a sardonic comment that this probably holds the record for the longest time the two factions haven't been at each other's throats, with Nightshade elbowing him for being insensitive. As the room empties, Dot seeks out Robbie and Mo. She tells them that from now on, things will be a lot more difficult. It is now more important than ever for what remains of the CHA to recover the Emberstone shards and lock them away. And after today, she's had to admit to herself that Robbie and Mo have grown more than she was willing to admit. She won't have them charged into combat situations, but if they promise to always stick close to their Terran siblings and retreat the moment there's danger, she'll agree to have them take part in the search. She smiles at Robbie, asking if this sounds like a fair compromise. Robbie returns the smile, agreeing that it is, and the three of them hug. Robbie also apologizes for accusing Dot of not trusting Mo and him. Dot accepts, stating they both didn't really do a good job of trying to understand the other. Sometimes insisting to always have your way will only lead to everyone getting hurt. Sometimes it's better to try and meet in the middle. Meanwhile, Hashtag approaches Twitch, who seems more than a bit down, asking if she's okay. Twitch is devastated over the fact that Aftermath just abandoned them. They're all Terrans, but he doesn't seem interested in being part of their family at all. She sees her failure to convince him to stay as a personal failure, and wonders what she did wrong. Hashtag points out that while it's true they're all Terrans, Aftermath is obviously different from them, and that maybe he just wasn't meant to stay with them. Twitch isn't convinced, lamenting how she let Breakdown spend all this time with Aftermath, and how his bad influence probably contributed to him stabbing them in the back, even making a comment on how obviously a Decepticon would do that. This makes Hashtag uncomfortable, but she chooses to say nothing as she stays by her sister's side and simply continues offering her silent comfort. We cut to the Decepticons setting up shop in one of their old bases, situated inside a mountain somewhere in the US. Shockwave and Tarantulas deposit the shard the cons manage to secure into a vault of their own, as Starscream watches. When Shockwave remarks that for what they've planned they'll need a lot more, Starscream merely replies that they'll better get searching then. The episode ends on a shot of the lone shard in the vault, sparking ominously.